I'd like to welcome everybody to this new addition to the Tulgey Wood TV family of stars. This is going to be a regular feature. We'll see how often we can do it, but it's going to be digging the details with Jim and Dean. So it'll be fun, I think. And Dean and I always have some great discussions about all things Disney and other things too. So I think we have some great topics lined up that in the weeks and months ahead. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce everybody to Dean Brinkerhoff. He is an artist, he is a writer, and he is a very accomplished Disney aficionado. So welcome aboard, Dean.
Thank you, Jim, and hi to everybody in Tulgey Wood TV. It's nice to be here.
Great. And of course, I've introduced you, so why don't you tell everybody who I am in case this might be the first video that they're watching, who knows?
In case you don't know, this is noted author and historian Jim Fanning. A round of applause for everybody. Jim's a good friend of mine. Honor to be here.
Oh, great. It's an honor to have you, and you're a great friend of mine. So that's terrific.
Thank you.
it's great to have you here in the madness of Tulgey Wood TV.
It's a bit mad in here.
I can tell.
You know, Jim, we here on Tulgey Wood TV, your fans here in the world of YouTube have been wondering a little bit about your pronunciation, and I've been curious what the story is behind your particular pronunciation of Tulgey. What's the story behind that? I've been curious for a while because, you know, in the film it's pronounced a certain way, and here on Tulgey Wood TV, that's how it's pronounced. And what's the detail behind that little tidbit there?
Since we're digging the details, we might as well dig that detail as the very first one, huh?
Sounds good to me. I've been very curious.
Well, luckily for everyone involved, there's a very simple explanation for my pronunciation of the word Tulgey. It's a mispronunciation. I've not been pronouncing it correctly, and the reason for that is that I read the word Tulgey, as in Tulgey Wood, in I believe it's Through the Looking Glass, long before I saw the Disney movie, and long before I heard anyone say that word out loud. So I just always thought that the pronunciation was Tulgey instead of
Tulgey.
So now that for years I've said Tulgey, even though it's wrong, I thought, well, I better just stick with it.
And who's to say that that's actually the wrong way when it's, you know, your perspective? I think that's fair.
Well,
I think it's funny you built your whole blog around it and everything too. It's kind of ironic, but yes, I love it.
And it's very typical of me, unfortunately, that the entire thing is based on a mistake. But it's very reflective.
I love it. Oh. And I'll jump on that bandwagon with you.
Well, thank you. So it's kind of a through the looking glass distortion mirror image of the way the word is supposed to be pronounced. And it's my own pronunciation. So anybody out there that's been wondering, you're correct and I'm incorrect, but here on YouTube, we're going to stick with Tulgey Wood TV because that's all my feeble mind can bear. So you asked me a simple yet challenging question. So I thought today you and I would deal with a simple but at the same time very challenging question. And that is, I am curious to know what your favorite Disney song is. Now, wait a minute. There's too many wonderful, wonderful songs.
Way too many.
Way too many. All the way from Minnie's Yoo-Hoo up to the songs from Frozen, Frozen 2, and beyond.
Absolutely.
So I want to narrow it down at least a little bit. And I thought the way we could do that is at least let's choose something from the Walt era. So any song, as still as hard as that can be, can you narrow it down to one favorite?
You know, Jim, that's a really, really challenging thing to decide between because there are so many, and from various songwriters, of course. You got Frank Churchill all the way through, you know, the Sherman Brothers at the close of Walt Disney's life. So many songs. I think a few definitely come to mind, and I've been trying to, as you've been talking, as I'm trying to decide, I'm deciding actually on one that I never quite expected. Earlier we were chatting a little bit about Peter Pan, and I was thinking about how The Second Star to the Right is such a beautiful opening song to that film. And there's another little tidbit to that song that I love, before I finish what I'm about to say, that I'll get into in a minute. Second Star to the Right is a beautiful song, words by Sammy Kahn. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Music by Sammy Fain. Beautiful orchestral score and a beautiful chorus to go along with that opening song. And it's just so ethereal and beautiful. It sends me into a different place, almost like I'm imagining myself in Neverland, flying around with Peter Pan and all the Lost Boys, and it's a beautiful, beautiful song. The neat tidbit that I love about The Second Star to the Right that may be a bit unknown to some Disney enthusiasts or aficionados is that it was actually a song used, deleted from Alice in Wonderland with different vocals, different lyrics. And it was a song titled Beyond the Laughing Sky. And that is actually my favorite song, I think, from the Walt era. Now that I really have given it some good thought, that one has popped up, and every time I hear it, it's so beautiful. It sends an emotional reaction into my being that is hard to explain, and it's the same tune as Second Star to the Right. So I sort of get that same feeling when I watch Peter Pan, but the singer, the lyrics are just slightly different enough that it evokes a different feeling to me. And, you know, some of the lyrics alternately are, why does the whispering wind sound like a lullaby? Is that the magic music from Beyond the Laughing Sky? And it's a very thought-provoking song that really sends you into a different fantasy world of imagination and really a lot of color and life, just like it is here in Tulgey Wood in the middle of Wonderland. Alice is sitting there pondering, and would I find a place for me in this land of great enchantment, and, you know, trying to find her place in a crazy world. And at the current moment, we are living in a little bit of crazy times, so it's nice to, you know, have these wonderful moments with the Disney films we love so much that can send us into another world while we're stressed and trying to deal with the everyday struggles of life. And so there's my long and short of I love Beyond the Laughing Sky. I think that's one of my favorite ones.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, that is a deep dive into the details that we are digging, Dean. That's beautiful. That kind of gives me, you know, chills just hearing you say that.
Gives me chills as I think of the song, so I'm glad it's giving you that same reaction.
How funny that the Disney artists and writers and composers were all so talented that they could come up with something so perfect and beautiful, and yet still said, no, I think we'll leave this one out.
Put that on the cutting room floor.
And then, of course, they
revamp it.
Right. Luckily, they did not let it go to waste. They made it into another beautiful song for Peter Pan, and it's thrilling and chilling in a great way when you hear it in Peter Pan. It's just the perfect But the fact that you would choose the earlier version as your favorite, it says so much about you and your knowledge of Disney. It's so deep. I could definitely say that Second Star to the Right is one of my favorites. So beautiful. But I don't know that I would have thought about the original version, even though I knew about it and I've heard it. So
I remember the first time that I had heard it, I was like, wait, that sounds so familiar. And then they had said is probably on the DVD release, the bonus features that I love to scour, that it was actually the original version. So I, put that together, and I kind of said, hey, I like this one a little better. And that's the thought process there.
oh, so wonderful.
So every time I hear Second Star to the Right, that's what I go to.
Why does the whispering wind sound like a lullaby? Is that the magic music from beyond the laughing sky?
And now, Jim, I'm curious, what is your favorite song
Well,
of the Walt era?
yeah, just like you said, it's like impossible. And I could probably say a different song like every day. When I was a guest on the podcast, notably Disney, it was playing a trivia game about Disney music and all kinds. And I was asked, as everyone was, what's my favorite Disney song? So I said Fortuosity by the Sherman Brothers for the Happiest Millionaire. And that's the song I'm saying today as well.
Fortuosity, that's me byword.
Fortuosity. It's that twinkle in the eye word for the happiest thing that ever happened to musical motion picture entertainment.
I do think it's my favorite Disney song of all time. And I think it's a favorite of yours as well, isn't it?
Oh, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
It's wonderful.
And it almost has a story similar to Second Star to the Right, because another song was in its place for...
Was there?
Originally, yes. In the planning stages, the Sherman Brothers had written a song called Rittenhouse Square. And,
Really?
yeah, and it was the idea of it was that it was going to set up the whole world of Anthony Biddle,
Uh-huh.
the neighborhood, the world that he lives in, this very wealthy section of Philadelphia. Tommy Steele was known because he was the toast of Broadway. He was a sensation in the musical comedy called Half a Sixpence. And everybody was raving about him because he had not been known in the United States. That play had started in England, created sensation there, and just like some others like Oliver was brought over here. So everybody was raving about this guy that they had never heard of. And Half a Sixpence is his show. I mean, he has to be on stage for like 99% of it. So
It's all Tommy, huh?
yeah. So because of that, Walt asked the Sherman Brothers to go to New York and see the show and see what, see if everybody was right, that he would be great. And of course they did, and the rest is history.
Oh, yeah.
So,
He blew away in The Happiest Millionaire.
right. So they knew that he needed a signature song. His talent was so overwhelming that they had to use it more than was originally being planned for that character. So they thought, well, what can we do it? So let's use that character to bring the audience into the story. He's the outsider, as the audience is, because we don't know anything about what's going on. And what kind of song could there be for this character? Well, he's Irish. He's fresh off the boat. And this is this amazing thing for him that one minute he's an immigrant and the next he's going to be working in the wealthiest household in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Well, why would that be true? Well, of course, the Irish are very centered on the whole idea of good luck. But the Sherman Brothers, they're going to think of something much more clever than just saying, hey, I'm a lucky guy. they loved
Found
coming.
the pot at the end of the rainbow, or yeah.
Exactly. So they loved coming up with words, new words.
They were sure word inventors.
And that was actually a Disney tradition, too, like Bippity Boppity Boo and
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
that'd probably be the greatest example of all, right there. So actually, in Mary Poppins, Bert, played by Dick Van Dyke, says, this is a line of dialogue that was come up with by Bill Walsh and Don DeGrady. He says, what we have here is a fortuitous situation. So they said, oh, fortuitous. That's such an interesting word.
It's a tasty one.
It's a delicious one. So why don't we make that a thing? That fortuitous could be a thing, a philosophy, something that happens to you, something almost tangible. So how would the Sherman Brothers in a Disney song say good luck? They would say fortuosity, a word they came up with themselves.
Naturally.
So from that came this wonderful idea of this whole philosophy that this man has lived his whole life just trusting that all good fortune would come his way. And it's so optimistic. It's so upbeat. It's such a wonderful, positive way of looking at life. And I think it also reflects Walt Disney himself.
Absolutely.
Mark Davis always said Walt was the great optimist. When I hear that song, I think it reflects Walt Disney himself. And
that's a neat side.
Yeah. So I think Anthony Biddle, the happiest millionaire himself, played by Fred McMurray, is one side of Walt. And I think the other side of him is John Lawless, as epitomized by the song Fortuosity. I have my Happiest Songs album here, which I showed in the video about the compilation albums. And Happiest. Oh, thank you. And this is where I heard Fortuosity. I didn't see Happiest Millionaire for decades. Here we have Tommy Steele.
Front and center beneath Julie.
Right, exactly. And Fortuosity's on the soundtrack, so I had no idea what the Happiest Millionaire was, what the story was, what was going on, what it is. But that song can, as any great hit song will, can stand by itself. So it's a crystallization to me of all the great Disney songs and even all the Sherman Brothers songs too. So that's why I think of it as my favorite.
I absolutely love that answer. It's definitely a favorite of mine too. From the moment I saw that, I fell in love with that movie. When I heard the song, I should say, I fell in love with that movie.
Yeah, it sure gets things off to a great start, and all the songs are so wonderful in The Happiest Millionaire.
Well, let's have a drink on it.
Very good. And I'll always be Irish.
I love that one.
all the great ones. It's so, and it's a pity that movie's not more well known because the songs are so fantastic.
I could go on about that film. I love the romantic "Are We Dancing" song, and it's one of my favorite songs to share with my wife. It's definitely a fun song to sing with her and watch and whatever else. It's a great film. It really is.
Yeah, so perhaps that's one of the things that we will be digging in our new video series here.
It certainly seems we've been starting to here.
Yeah. And I mean, we've touched on some great things already. Peter Pan, The Happiest Millionaire. You can't get much better than that.
Sure can.
So for our audience watching, this is just the first of a series of videos, and we're actually going to be going into even more depth than we did in this one and in some of the upcoming ones. And like we said, maybe it'll even be the Happiest Millionaire. And there'll be some non-Disney subjects too, because Dean and I share a lot of fascination and interest with so many things. But our main focus will be Disney, just like Tulgey Wood itself. So please stay tuned for more episodes of Digging the Details with Jim and Dean. And we will see you next time in Digging the Details with Jim and Dean.